Magdalene's blog 30. During my affair with Marcellus, Belle was not only sympathetic, but almost actively helpful. She even wanted to coach me in certain methods of invoking the goddess's presence and pleasure during lovemaking. Her interest wasn't easy for me to accept, but neither was I able to deny her completely. Thankfully, she mainly satisfied herself with discovering what inquiries Marcellus made into the secrets of the goddess temple, and helping me by supplying both suitable answers to his lines of inquiry and probing questions in return about the Mithraic cult. She already knew most of what I was able to discover, of course, but I now could see how important it was her for that this game of power and influence was played out to the full. The cult of Mithras was a growing influence in the Roman army, and as such was a real rival to Astarte's temple, which benefited considerably from the support of the military. How we might forge a partnership with a cult that would let women play no part was a tricky puzzle for our high priestess. Despite this apparent anti-female attitude, some followers of Mithras had a fascination with our temple, part of which was certainly bound up with sex, even though it could be as much about denial as passion, like it had been with Marcellus. Then again, our knowledge of the heavens and the movements of the stars was second to none, which appeared to be the added attraction. The way that Mithraism excluded women from their mysteries reminded Belle most closely of the Jews, and of course it wasn't lost on Belle that that was a huge part of what led to me running away from Magdalene. Then Ariane returned from her extended visit to Egypt, and Belle wanted to hear all about what was happening there and the details of her many meetings. Ariane and I were sitting in the library sharing a pot of our favourite fresh mint tea to celebrate her return, when Belle called us both to her inner sanctum. I was slightly surprised, but really pleased to be worthy of being included in these discussions. Belle hugged Ariane warmly when we entered her apartment, pleased to have her priestess back, the one who was continuing Astel's vital role. She had obviously missed her a lot. There followed Belle asking after the ardours of Ariane's journeys, and offering refreshments to her as an important returning colleague, which I was glad to enjoy as well. Ariane relayed the main points of her visit to Alexandria and Heliopolis, and her longer stay at the Temple of Isis where Astel had come from. "And have they seen anything of the adoption of Mithraism into the Roman army?" asked Belle after a while, glancing across at me. "Yes, it did come up. I think because of the echoes it brings of the invader Cyrus and the slaughtered bull of Apis." "What do they think of this version of Mithraism, then?" "That it is more about the changing of the age than anything else, with the sun's unstoppable procession through the heavens," answered Ariane. "And they asked me everything I knew about the cult when they realized I came from a region where Mithras influence was part of ancient truth and customs. I told them that I believed its resurgence to be because of King Antiochus of Khomeini, the brilliant son of King Mithridates. Antiochus had sowed the seed in the Roman army through his association with Pompey, whom he called the heir of Hercules and Alexander the Great, with himself being a son of Mithras. The possibility that legionnaires could play their role in establishing the new age of the invincible sun was sown, which they took back them from that campaign. Then I related how, strangely, the seed really seemed to have sprouted most strongly when Crassus tried to repeat Pompey's feat, but when everyone knew this was only for vainglory and booty. He and his army were annihilated at Carrhae, the worst defeat of Rome since Hannibal's victory at Cannae, and one that I believed reinforced the idea of needing to be true to Mithras's virtues to attain victory." "Yes," said Belle, "that could well be. And tell me, please, what did you find to be the prevailing thoughts in Egypt on the coming age?" "Many think that Osiris will return, but no one has agreed of how it will come about. Some others that I met think the Messiah of the Jews will come and unleash the power of the Tetragrammaton against the Romans, driving them away." Maybe the followers of Mithras would rally round such a hero and lead him in triumph to Rome itself, said Belle. What do you know of the Tetragrammaton? I asked. I'd felt a small thrill run through me at the mention of it, the unveiled power behind everything. It is what you Jews claim to be the true name of your God Jehovah, answered Belle. Your people are not the first to lay claim to the great word of power that cannot be resisted. But if the Jews are the true heirs, then it surely must be time to bring it forth. Is it somehow contained in the Ark of the Covenant? I asked. Maybe so, but it seems that a Messiah is needed to wield it. Tell me, Ariane, what do our sisters of the Temple of Isis have to say? They say she is come indeed, and brings her Lord with her, answered Ariane, and again I felt a thrill that reached to the heart of me. What was the precise utterance? Asked Belle. Ariane took out a small scroll, from which she read, though I knew she would know it off by heart. My holy presence will be in three, for so is my will and love. The Mother Divine is the first, the Sister and Consort is the second, and the Priestess Supreme is third. Yet this must be earned, even as my Lord will win his reign anew. Belle's eyes were closed, and yet her smile shone all the stronger. For a long few minutes she remained thus, and I also closed my eyes and seemed to see the figure of the goddess Isis as I had copied it many times on library scrolls, drawn against my eyelids with a fine golden light. This is good, very good, said Belle at last. You have done very well, Ariane. Asta will be proud of you also. Let us go now and eat with all our sisters, and let them know of your return. We shall talk more of this tomorrow. When we were next alone, I got to ask Ariane more about her travels. Some of the places she described sounded marvellous and incredible, and I wondered if I would see them one day. Of all the people she had met, she told how she had been most impressed by one man, surprisingly, for he had been quiet in much of the discussions. He was quite an elderly man called Philo, a Jew living in Alexandria. He'd been a friend of Astel's before she had come to Antioch, and had influenced many of our former priestesses' views. Harriet had taken a small wooden box to him, as Astel had wished. It contained a letter and an intricately worked amulet that Astel had made to her own design. Philo had received Ariane kindly and listened to the discussions that her inquiries had sparked amongst his circle of friends, but he didn't say much himself. Ariane remembered that this group had been proclaiming that a Messiah could be for more than just the Jewish people, but could not quite say how that would come about. Philo had clearly enjoyed the lively debate, but would not be drawn to enter in, though many urged him to. It was a subject that Ariane wanted to be able to ask him about as well, and before she left Alexandria she did get her chance. He smiled at her, and his brown eyes sparkled as they took in Ariane's earnest gaze. When your need is deeply felt, then what you want will be drawn to you. Such is the law. But no one can say how or when this will happen. Therefore, our task is to uncover our heart's truest desire, and hold on to that alone, not becoming confused with all the other seemingly important things. Do you think you can do that? I believe so, Ariane had answered,